Hello everyone, I'm your host Martin Frank on the Spurs Pursuit, and today we will be discussing yesterday's absolutely embarrassing performance at the Metropolitano in Madrid against Atletico in the round of 16, where Tottenham Hotspur found themselves 3-0 down in the 15th minute, substituting their goalkeeper in the 16th, being 4-0 down in the 23rd minute, with an exhibition-style finish, losing 5-2 in the first leg, killing off the second leg completely, which on the one hand sounds like great news because Tottenham Hotspur are in such crisis in the Premier League that this might be the correct solution to completely forget about the Champions League campaign. However, on the other hand, there is absolutely nothing to get behind right now as a Tottenham Hotspur fan, because we have seen no progress under Igor Tudor in his 4 games in charge. And yesterday looked to be the nail in the coffin. During this video, I'll actively be paying attention to my phone to see if Igor Tudor is still in a job, because that seat is turning lava hot faster than anyone would have imagined, as he was appointed 24 days ago on Valentine's Day. Since then, he has failed to win a single game. Since then, out of a possible 360 minutes in charge, he has been in the lead for a whooping 6 minutes. It just keeps getting worse and worse for Tottenham. So before we jump in and before we, dissect every issue right now at the club, let's start with a recap of what happened yesterday. So, Tottenham Hotspur, it was a sort of free hit of a game. It was a hit and miss for Igor Tudor's Tottenham. It was a chance to experiment, which he fruitfully did. Because as the lineup was leaked hours before the game, Antonin Kinski was set to make his Champions League debut for Tottenham Hotspur. He was set to play his first game since November, after being in goal for Tottenham Hotspur this season only twice. A massive call from the Croatian, but it could have paid off. That's what we all were thinking. Well, that was absolutely not the case. Many fans, including myself, are very pleased with Antonin Kinski starting. We've been calling for it for weeks. Guglielmo Vicario's performances have been pretty poor, and with what Vicario struggles with the most is his kicking ability, which Antonin Kinski has. The qualities that Guglielmo Vicario has, Antonin Kinski doesn't have. The qualities that Kinski has, Vicario doesn't have, so they sort of complement each other in their negative attributes. However, there is one main difference that Vicario has over Kinski that we have found out yesterday, and that is readiness to compete on this top level. The level required to remain calm, to remain weathering the storm that is set upon you. And Antonin Kinski, 22-year-old Czech goalkeeper, has proved he is not ready for the big step. So let's start with the game itself. The formation was okay. Many fans were, quite pleased with the selection. So we had a Pedro Porro at right wing back. We had finally 3 fit and best senior centre backs ready to go. Kevin Danso, Christian Romero, Mickey van der Ven, perfect. The last time we saw this trio play was actually in the Europa League final, also in Spain. So there were plenty of positive similarities to draw conclusions to be positive. Jed Spence at left wing back. Ahead of them, it was Pape Sarr with Archie Gray in the middle. And then the front trio was Matisse Tell, Richarlison and Kolo Muani. On the eye, pretty good. Game starts, Tottenham Hotspur are, for the majority, in Atletico Madrid's half, not creating anything, but, the game was quite cagey. And then what was it, the 5th minute? Anthony Kinski slips when taking a goal kick and absolutely puts it in the path of Ademola Lookman, who then passes it to, if I'm not mistaken, Griezmann, who sets it into the path of Marcus Llorente. Now, Anthony Kinski slipped. That is one thing that needs to be mentioned, because I do not see anyone online complaining about Mickey van der Ven slipping and him being at fault for the second goal. So a slip, okay, fair enough. You know, the terrain seemed to be off, for the footwear seemed to be off. Tottenham Hotspur players looked like they were on ice skates during that game. The thing that hasn't been pointed out is Pape Sarr completely falls asleep and switches off with his runner, who is Marcus Llorente, who then ends up scoring, who had all the time in the world to ask Anthony Kinski, where do you want it? No one mentions Pape Sarr's lack of enthusiasm in the 5th minute of the game to track his runner, Marcus Llorente. But okay, we are down 1-0, not the end of the world. Until Sarr or Jed Spence is, playing a difficult pass, but not the most difficult, to Mickey van der Ven, who slips, sets in Antoine Griezmann, who cold-heartedly slots it behind Anthony Kinski. 2-0. Game over. Nothing to play for. A few minutes later, Jed Spence passes down the line back to his defender Mickey van der Ven, who passes it down the line back to Anthony Kinski in goal, who makes a woeful error. You could see he was mentally defeated. You could see the pressure got to him. And as he saw his absolutely horrific pass be placed in the path of Julian Alvarez to walk it into the back of the net, he hung his head into the grass. He was swallowed up by the 60,000 fans around him at the Metropolitano. He was let to be eaten alive in front of the crowd in Madrid. And Igor Tudor absolutely ruthlessly took him off in the 16th minute of his Champions League debut. Absolutely insane. When Anthony Kinski was coming off, he was, consoled by his captain, Christian Romero, who was maybe saying something along the lines of, keep your head up. Interestingly, Igor Tudor completely ignored him when he made it off the field. For you to substitute your goalkeeper, who you have literally thrown in the deep end to drown, to not give him a heads up, saying, look, we're in it together, head up, you're going to be okay. Nothing. Just 2 members of staff went with Anthony Kinski into the changing room. And Anthony Kinski, I really do feel for him. He has been eaten alive, not only in that stadium, but also on social media. Many Tottenham fans have been absolutely ruthless with him, claiming, why should we feel sorry for him? I will give you the reason why. We have kept a 22-year-old goalkeeper for a year and 3 months now. That's 14 months at the club, where he has played under 12 games. This season, this was his 3rd game that he has played. A 22-year-old goalkeeper needs to grow in confidence. He needs space to develop. If you are halting both because you are incompetent to loan him out in the January transfer window or in the summer, it is your fault. It is not completely the player's fault. And I'm not saying Anthony Kinski is not to blame for this situation. He is a professional footballer who works with mental coaches, who trains on a daily basis to perform a task of being a goalkeeper, which he failed to do yesterday effectively. However, there are studies shown that under extreme stress, under extreme pressure, your frontal cortex is fogged. It's experienced a feeling of fog in front of it, and you are, therefore unable to complete ordinary tasks, which was the case for Anthony Kinski. But that shows he is not ready for the next step. That shows it is a step too much. And if you have a 22-year-old goalkeeper sitting on the bench for the whole season, when you see Guglielmo Vicario's performances in goal, what must his confidence be? What must his desire to play be? He put extreme desire to perform, to gain the attention of Tottenham fans, of the Tottenham staff, to get a chance. But with that extreme pressure comes the risk of failing. And after slipping for the first goal, after being 2-0 down, he felt that pressure creep in. And, it isn't a valuable excuse to give him, to cop him out, because he is a professional, but he will be going for it right now. And it was a Loris Karius moment for him in that game. Does that ultimately kill his confidence going forward? Does that mean he will struggle to, progress through the ranks elsewhere in a different league, in a different club? It's a pivotal moment for him last night, and it could be a career-ending moment. This could damage his not only reputation, but his ultimate ability to perform on top level. Because when you perform such a massive mistake, it is very difficult to get away from it. And the fact Igor Tudor did not even offer condolences, did not even offer a word of encouragement as Antonin Kinski made it into the changing room, shows what character he is. And I believe he deserves to be sacked. Not for this reason, but for the reason where we can tell the players are not copying his ideas. The players are not getting in behind what he wants. And when you are entering a relegation battle like Tottenham Hotspur are, you need someone to play for. Because the fans are anxious. The fans are toxic towards the players. So it's very difficult for the players to be motivated to play for the fans. You need to play for someone. You need to get confidence as well from somebody. And Igor Tudor is not that man. Igor Tudor has missed his golden opportunity. And his golden ticket was the Arsenal North London derby. But it was also the Fulham game. And he has failed. And the Crystal Palace and Atletico Madrid game shows that. Fragility, lack of cohesion, lack of chemistry. Boom, there it is. And you cannot enter a relegation battle with this manager. So then it was made 4-0. Vicario did an initial amazing save, but with the rebound, he couldn't do anything about it. Crossed the line. Lenormand made it 4-0. Tottenham pulled one back until half-time. A quick response. It was Pedro Porro who softened the blow. Arguably the best player on the field. I saw Troy Deeney make some critical comments on his behalf. I don't believe Pedro Porro should be the man you are criticising. He was referring to the moment in the second half where Tottenham Hotspur almost make it 4-2 with a fantastic Jan Oblak save where Pedro Porro actually delivered an amazing cross for Richarlison to leech onto. And within 2 passes and 10 seconds, Atletico Madrid make it 5-1. So instead of 4-2, it's now 5-1. And Pedro Porro was blamed for the lack of effort to get back. It's 4-1, it's 5-1, it doesn't matter. You're not playing for anything. If you make it 4-2, it's game over. You cannot blame Pedro Porro for, not trying to pull his hamstring going back. Because Pedro Porro was arguably, throughout that 90 minutes, the best Tottenham player on the field. So then again, the blow was softened by another poor mistake in the back line. This time it was Jan Oblak, so the Atletico Madrid goalkeeper. Dominic Solanke finds himself clean on goal, slots it home. Fantastic finish that could serve as maybe a confidence boost. So these are the only 2 positives to take. Pedro Porro's performance and Dominic Solanke actually scoring. Richarlison had a very decent game. Only 3 positives to take from the whole 90 minutes. The final whistle blew, serving as much needed escape for Spurs players who looked and wanted to be anywhere else than the centre stage of that circus that they had brought on themselves. Another catastrophic game of football for Tottenham Hotspur. The saying is absolutely true. When it rains, it pours. Ange Postecoglou last season made the comments. Whenever I believe I'm at the end of the tunnel, whenever I see light at the end of the tunnel, it ends up to be an oncoming train. That is the situation of Tottenham Hotspur for the past 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons. I could go on and on and on. We have been an absolute shambles of a club. We really have. And this brings me onto the only thing Tottenham Hotspur fans will care about. And that is relegation. Can Tottenham Hotspur save themselves in this relegation battle? It will also depend on the players, but mainly on the manager as well. And Igor Tudor's job is most definitely in jeopardy. So let me bring you some interesting statistics. Starting off with Tottenham Hotspur as a club. This is the first time in the history of the whole club that Tottenham Hotspur have lost 6 consecutive games in a row. This has never happened before. Ever. Let me bring you another interesting statistic. 11 winless games in the Premier League. The worst run since 1975. 51 years it has taken to equal the record. With the likelihood of losing against Liverpool at Anfield on Sunday, where Tottenham Hotspur failed to win in 15 years, the last victory coming in 2011, we can make that 12 winless games. Igor Tudor in himself is breaking records. Let's start with number 1. He is the first manager in Tottenham Hotspur history who has failed to win in 4 attempts. Should I say in the first 4 attempts? He has beaten Martignol's record for 2004, where Martignol had 3 attempts. In his 4th, he finally managed to win. Igor Tudor has made that 4 and could make that 5 if he's still in charge on Sunday. Which brings me to my next point of breaking records. Igor Tudor, there is no way he survives longer than Sunday if he fails to beat Anfield. If he fails to, well, yes, technically beat Liverpool at Anfield. Igor Tudor could become the shortest reigning manager in top flight English football, surpassing Sam Allardyce's record of 30 days. He could equal Tottenham Hotspur's record of Christian Stellini, who was in charge for just 29 days. However, Christian Stellini managed to win a game. Both these managers, Christian Stellini and Igor Tudor, had only managed 4 games. I'm speaking theoretically, in charge in the Premier League, if he is still in charge, Igor Tudor, on Sunday. Do you see those similarities between the two? It's absolutely insane what is happening at Tottenham Hotspur right now. As I've already mentioned in this video, I will give you one more statistic. The Croatian is also the only manager, sorry for my itchy eye, who has been in the lead as a Spurs coach for an incredible 6 minutes out of a possible 360. That is another interesting statistic. We are breaking the worst possible records. This is the worst Tottenham team I've ever seen in my history of my time of supporting. And it's not been as long as other fans. Other fans who have been supporting since the 70s have claimed this is the worst Tottenham team ever. And Tottenham Hotspur were relegated in 1976-77. 49 years ago. And they are saying this Tottenham team right now is worse. The board must be watching closely. They must be thinking about pulling the trigger right now. Because if they risk to wait until Liverpool away on Sunday, they throw away another 10% of Tottenham Hotspur's relegation battle. So not only will they be forced to make a decision on the shortest reigning manager in top flight English history, it's not a question of will he be sacked. It's a question of when he will be sacked. It's similar to Thomas Frank. The longer you wait now, the worse. And yes, they have made a poor decision to appoint Igor Tudor. But you can change that now. You can put someone in there who knows the club, who knows what it means to be in a relegation fight, who knows the Premier League. Because Igor Tudor is not that man. He is not that man to take the ship to safety that he's been on about. Because his ship has sunk. And we need rescue boats coming in. And that rescue boat being an interim coach. Whether that's Ryan Mason. Whether that is Sean Dyche. Whether that is Harry Redknapp, who is a 79-year-old who hasn't managed in 10 years' time, but he knows the club more than anyone else. Robbie Keane. These are managers you must be looking at right now. An interesting stat, if Ryan Mason is put in charge and actually fails to make Tottenham Hotspur survive the relegation, he could be the first manager who relegates a Premier League side and a Championship side. Because West Bromwich Albion are currently in the relegation position in the Championship. Absolutely insane. So the Champions League journey comes to an end, definitely. When will we next see Tottenham Hotspur in Champions League, God knows when. It will not be in recent history, I guarantee you that. It is absolutely awful. It really is. And, that will be sort of reflected with that Anthony and Kinski performance. And I really, really feel for him. I really do. Another bad news comment that I have for you. Christian Romero and João Palhinha, their clash of heads at the end of the game summarised Tottenham Hotspur, not only in that game but in recent weeks and years. What does this mean? It means that they risk to miss the Anfield trip, and I will tell you why. Radu Dragusin missed Crystal Palace for the same reason. You might have seen him that he wasn't even on the bench. There is a new rule in place that if a player is suspected of experiencing a concussion, he has to miss a minimum of 5 days. And with Tottenham Hotspur's game coming in 4 days, they will most likely miss the trip. Of course, it's the evaluation of the doctors and the medical staff that still needs to be put in place. However, that looks most likely to happen. And so it just gets worse and worse and worse. And this brings me to my second point. Or my next point, should I say. Tottenham Hotspur somehow make it possible. This is an actual talent. Tottenham Hotspur make it possible and easily possible to go from worse to worser, week in, week out. They somehow find new levels to embarrass the club. They somehow find new levels to bring the club to a new all-time low. I don't know how it's possible, but they have that talent. There is no other club in the world who can do what Tottenham do. And that is impressive. Just last week, as Tottenham Hotspur played Crystal Palace after Mickey van der Ven was sent off and the game flipped, and Tottenham Hotspur absolutely capitulated in the last minutes of the first half. You thought it couldn't get any worse. Well, it can. It really can. And I'm thinking about it right now, and maybe Mick McCarthy is the ideal man for the job. Because whenever he'll be in a post-match interview or conference, he'll be repeatedly asked the question, it can't get any worse, can it? And he can deliver you that amazing, amazing meme response. It can. Because it can, and it will. It is Tottenham Hotspur heritage. I try to remain as positive as possible for any of you watching more than one of my videos. But it's becoming impossible. So, has the super tanker sunk with the crew drowning, or was this all just a simple illusion? That is my question right now. Thomas Frank claimed that he is turning this super tanker in January. Look where we are now with this super tanker. Has the crew on the ship, on this super tanker, sunk? Igor Tudor has mentioned, these words of a boat. It's over. It's absolutely over. And I will tell you something very interesting. This Tottenham Hotspur collapse must be left from a neutral perspective, from the club perspective, in the past. Defensive errors, fragile mentality, complete lack of cohesion. These have been the similar themes from Thomas Frank's Tottenham and Igor Tudor's Tottenham. There are no signs of these issues being solved. And with the Champions League journey over and the Premier League survival battle looming large by every week coming closer, the focus now must shift entirely to the final stretch of the domestic campaign, where Tottenham Hotspur must focus on somehow scrambling wins or draws to show they are capable of surviving, because Nottingham Forest and West Ham United will be licking their lips watching this unfold. Liverpool waits next. I've already mentioned we have failed to win there for 15 consecutive years. This fixture, if Igor Tudor will be in charge, will be the end of the Croatians' absolutely horrific reign in charge. It's true. It's what it will be. And for the board now, the decision may come sooner. they may place someone in charge for that Anfield game because no one, not the fans, not the players, believe in what Igor Tudor is trying to implement. And when you do not believe in a vision, even a short-term vision, you cannot succeed. So, it's a temporary situation and the reality is clear. Something must change quickly. And it's not something major, it's the simple details. It's the little things that need to be changing in the mentality of the team. Because if the super tanker really has sunk, Tottenham Hotspur are favourites and are dangerously close to going down with it. This circus continues with the clock ticking. And just my final 2 points before I wrap this video up. Mauricio Pochettino was pictured in the stands. He was pictured before the game boarding the same flight as Tottenham fans who, were singing songs about him, were asking him to come back home, and he was smiling. There was something positive yesterday in that day. But his wife, Karin, must be looking at her husband, questioning his sanity. Because why on earth does he want to go back to not only this mess, but this circus of a club? She must be thinking, what on earth is my husband thinking? What on earth is the thinking process of my husband? Because Mauricio Pochettino, believe it or not, he will have better offers coming in than Tottenham Hotspur. And I genuinely believe he will become our next permanent manager, which is insane. And final report today to catch up with Tottenham is Christian Romero looks more and more likely to make an exit in the summer transfer window, signing a contract in the summer. He must have been fed so many false promises. He must have been sold a dream. And Christian Romero will most likely look to depart to La Liga. I believe the club we've just played, Atletico Madrid, will be the team that purchase him. Diego Simeone has been a long-term admirer and he fits into that back system better than anyone else with his aggression and his Spanish gene. Yeah, look, a light confirms that. So there will be a massive rebuild coming in. You will see reports with Guglielmo Vicario, Mickey van der Ven, Dominic Solanke, Xavi Simons. This will all be heating up in the coming weeks. Tottenham Hotspur right now are in a very, very scary position. It's all doom and gloom right now, and it will take a real miracle to get us out of this situation. We are still yet to win in the Premier League this calendar year. It will take a miracle for someone to come in and turn this situation around. We must believe in a miracle. We must believe in something. Because we could look to be playing already in July with the Championship starting then. Thank you everyone for watching. I'm very sorry it's been a very negative video, but this is the reality of the club right now. I will be on the Spotlight on Spurs podcast on Thursday, so you can check that out with an 8:30 p.m. start. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for the support. A like and subscribe will be much appreciated. I value every single one of you. So thank you so much. Have a lovely day and be tuned because we could be seeing Igor Tudor leaving the club immediately. Thank you and see you later. Bye bye.